Good afternoon. Welcome to We Believe Digital Studios and the twice weekly news break show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 noon. My name is Chris Young. Glad you're joining us today. We're located in downtown Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the deep, deep South, where it's 73 degrees right now, sunny skies, heading for 79 degrees maybe in 2-3 hours from now. We've got a whole bunch of stories to get to today, things that are going on. Our call-in number is 1-800-492-5186. Again, we're really glad you're here. You can always call in if you have any thoughts or questions or comments on these stories, or join us in the chat, whatever works best for you. And We Believe Digital Studios is an African-American owned and operated studio here in Jackson, Mississippi. And we look forward to your advertising with us. We're running programs nearly 7 days a week. And we can cut commercials and help with graphics and help you with your podcast show, whatever, to even political ads, running, developing, producing, editing political ads that are television worthy, and can do that all here in the We Believe Digital Studios. We do have some partners that help with some different projects, but most everything is done right here. Got a young staff that's vibrant and eager and just loves the work that they do. So give us a call, 1-800-492-5186, and let us help you move your brand along. So we'll start out on the global front with, of course, some sad news that I think, well, by this time, many people have heard that Harry Belafonte has passed at age 96. It's hard to really capture all that he has done, all that he did in his lifetime. The contributions are just immense. Known all over the world for his acting and singing, but also for his activism. People knew that when he attached his name to different issues, that it was worthy, and he found lots and lots of support. He was deeply involved in the civil rights era, not publicized greatly, but certainly to some degree that he paid for dozens upon dozens to be released, bailed out of jail, knowing that people were in there under trumped up charges. He visited Jackson in 1994. And he didn't come alone. He brought Sidney Poitier with him. And if you can imagine, and we just lost him earlier this year. And but they were here to celebrate the success at Lanier High School of the Algebra Project, which had been developed by the one and only Dr. Bob Moses, another trailblazer, a pioneer. Was actually originally from Harlem, but spent an awful lot of time in Mississippi. He was the co-founder of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which is still active in Mississippi today, has a much smaller profile today, but is still active in Holmes County. Not only do they have the state branch located there, but the state party headquarters located there, but they also have 4 different municipalities in Holmes County with dues-paying members. So pretty cool stuff that was still alive. And Mr. Moses was one, along with Fannie Lou Hamer, that helped bring that to fruition. Then there was the Freedom Summer, the Freedom Rides, deeply involved with that. But back to Mr. Belafonte, several movies, and some of these may come to mind for you. The movie called The Player in 1992, very popular. Black Klansman in 2018. Odds Against Tomorrow, one of his first pictures in 1959. And then, of course, there was that Calypso singing that was so popular. I mean, I grew up listening to this music. My father was an enormous fan. you know, of course, we're listening on records, you know, the old time vinyl. But, you know, the famous song Day-O, Jump in the Line, Jamaica's Farewell, Mary's Boy Child, the list goes on and on. So we bid farewell to Harry Belafonte and just express thanks for all the many, many contributions. And this was a big, big star that spent much, much, much of his life helping people that had nothing and helping the disenfranchised and the discriminated. And you just love to see that kind of stuff. So we bid you farewell. Also on the global front, which, you know, you would not expect this to be in global news, but there it was on the BBC website about the escape at the Raymond Detention Center over the weekend. Apparently these guys went out through the roof somehow, ducting or venting or something like that, went out through the roof, and over the weekend, 4 different inmates escaped. There's some type of belief going on that while escaping, they may have murdered one person, but that news is all over the place now, and a big police hunt is underway for those inmates whose name I won't mention. When we drop down to the national news in the U.S., you know, Florida Governor DeSantis has really been playing hardball with Disney. Isn't that interesting that, you know, he's playing hardball with them, and that is the biggest draw to Florida that exists, is Disney World. Anyway, Disney has now sued the Florida governor over control of what had been established as a self-governing district. So apparently that was all written into the bylaws when they first started up things down there way back in the late 60s, early 70s. I once knew a man, he's deceased now, but that was responsible for providing so much of the infrastructure to house and feed the workers that built Disney World. So it was kind of cool to meet him. You may have heard that the Supreme Court at the end of last week decided not to ban the first stage abortion medication, mifepristone. At least for right now, they've put that on hold. So that medication is still available with a prescription in the drugstores. Big shock on these Proud Boys. Remember the Proud Boys? We certainly don't talk about them every day, but the Proud Boys are turning on their Mr. Trump. You know, apparently, you know, the famous call out about that Trump made about, you know, it's going to be wild. Come on, you don't want to miss it on January 6th. It's going to be wild. And see, they initially said that that was their call to action. That's why they were there. They were following the orders. They called that an order by their commander-in-chief, which, okay. But in any event, I guess their trials for seditious conspiracy have not been going well. And at yesterday's trial, the attorneys that were representing these guys did a turnaround and turned on Trump and said that he had fed them a bold lie, and that so I'm trying to keep a straight face. When the producer giggles, it's hard for me to keep a straight face. So anyway, imagine how that works. Of course, these are all white people, and they're you know, they want to do what they want to do, but then when they get caught doing something they don't want, that, you know, shouldn't be done or is illegal, they want to find a way to, you know, to slither out of the responsibility for that. So anyway, God bless them. We got a legal system here, and they're working it. So we'll see what happens. the Congress is looking for the very first time right now at developing a code of conduct for the U.S. Supreme Court. Never had one before. You know, there's always been these assumptions that these people risen to the very highest levels of the legal profession, that they operate by a code and that they have a firm grasp of ethics in the sense of what is right and what is wrong. But then we have disclosures that come out every now and then, like we recently had with Clarence Thomas, where, you know, accepting, you know, exorbitant accommodations and vacation trips and shopping and that sort of thing from a donor that does at different times have litigation that would be before the Supreme Court. So the Congress is taking a look at it and may be developing a code of conduct for the Supreme Court. I mean, I find that very, very telling. That's a sad commentary for us, but I guess everybody's got to have a code, and even the people you think you would not have to spell it out for, we're going to need to spell it out for. Also, it looks like, and you know, try not to get into this this kind of stuff too deeply, but the Republicans in the House, you know, they have the leadership in the House right now by a few scant votes, and the House Leader McCarthy has been scrambling to get votes to increase the debt ceiling. We're always told that to not increase the debt limit ceiling would be catastrophic, not only in the U.S., but in different parts of the globe. It's kind of over my pay grade. I'm not sure how all that works, but apparently there's some concessions being made, and some people are coming on board with that. So that's one of those things that the Republicans have traditionally beat up the Democrats over raising the debt ceiling, but they're getting ready to do it right now. So maybe that does lend credence to the fact that it would be disastrous if it doesn't happen. Just like, you know, I mean, it's interesting. I don't know what I want to say $17 trillion or something like that, but I'm not sure how any of that all makes sense, but we'll see what happens with that, and we'll see if we can't keep things rolling forward. So we're starting to come up on the end of our first segment, and but I'll just skip down into Mississippi for one story, as one little piece as we round out. And as I remind every single show, today is another day that the Republican-controlled legislature in the state of Mississippi has not held a hearing on the TANF scandal. This scandal where these Republican controllers, agency heads under the direction of former elected officials and maybe current elected officials, turned this federal safety net, just tens and tens of millions of dollars, up to $100 million, into a slush fund to do what they wanted with, and giving money away to ex-wrestlers and ex-football players and fitness coaches and boot camp operators, and just bizarre stuff that, you know, using that money that was intended for the absolute poorest families in Mississippi. And, you know, so the Democrats have held a couple of hearings. The Republicans have held no hearings whatsoever on that. Pretty sad day when you think about it. There's two things that are really mess with you in Mississippi, which, you know, is last in everything. It's just no wonder. But the two things are, number one, if you're poor, you're really in rough shape in Mississippi, despite being such a Christian dominated state, and really ranked in one of those national polls as being the most church attending state in the country. per capita. Can you imagine that? So we're number one in church attending, but to the poor, you just can't make a connection there. It's just it's almost like disregard love thy brother, and so you're really in rough shape if you're a resident of Mississippi that's poor. And now if you're black, where do you even begin? And then if you're poor and black, it just doesn't get any rougher than being poor and black in Mississippi. So we'll stop there, and we'll be coming back with a little bit of a story on Rolling Fork, and we'll be back with you very shortly.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs. Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcasting needs.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, Keepers of the Knowledge for People Who Speak the Truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippiLink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Welcome to We Believe Digital Studios and the noon hour news break show. And I tell you what, I've got this young, dynamic producer, Ariel here, and sometimes she just cracks me up. I mean, I try to stay moving on these stories, but she'll get me going. And she had let me know that we got some regular viewers out there. We're always happy to have you, Mr. Williams, Mr. Lewis. Always glad you guys are here, real stalwarts and sticking with us. We Believe Digital. Always happy to have you. Up in Rolling Fork this morning, Robin Roberts. Man, oh man. Good morning, America. Robin Roberts reporting live this morning from Rolling Fork under a banner of Mississippi Strong. So isn't that great? You get these folks that come in that have these high-profile people come in and draw attention to the devastation up there in the Delta, and in conjunction with her being up there, they sent 4 18-wheelers. They had a donation drive up, I think, around the Kroger parking lot in North Jackson on Monday, and they just moved 4 tractor trailer trucks with food brought up there this morning while Robin Roberts was there. And in addition, 11,000 in cash donations. So I'm not sure how that works, but really good stuff. So thank you, Robin Roberts. We're not invisible to you, and we really appreciate that. The IHL board, the institutions of higher learning, a lot of people suspect about those people, but their board gave approval to UMMC to build a teaching facility in Ridgeland. Now, it's going to be a 36-acre facility, going to be up at the intersection of Colony Park and I-55 North, frontage road. So 36 acres, and when they finish with that building, it's going to be 131,000 square feet. 131,000 square feet. I can picture in my mind a building that I'm really, really familiar with that's 85,000 square feet. So, man, oh man, this thing is going to be huge. So that's going to be a teaching facility, training up these docs and specialists and nurses and all that. So, but they capped it at $110 million. They can't spend more than that. You know, there was a bridge strike over the weekend on Sunday, a bridge strike on the Big River and down at Natchez. And so barge traffic is halted on the Big River. Hopefully that will lift. Now, that may have been reported earlier. I just learned about that this morning. Who knows? It may well already be lifted. So let's hope so, because so much of the Mississippi economy is predicated on barges moving on the Big River. So skipping down into Hinds and Jackson, a few things to talk about. First, let me say, over the weekend, Working Together Jackson, who once did regular podcast shows on this platform, had a refounding convention and a citywide assembly, and out at the New Horizon Church International, the church on the hill, and do you know that they had 500 people show up out there? Now, Working Together Jackson, it's an organization of more organizations, and they have approximately 50 member organizations right now. I tell you what, it was amazing. There'll be an article coming out tonight on that I wrote on the MississippiLink.com. You go there tonight, say 9:30, click on the e-edition. You'll be able to read that article, or the link will be out in newsstands tomorrow by anywhere between noon and mid-afternoon. But that was really phenomenal. So all kinds of organizations and these people lined up with checks and pledges. And in that one event, they collected $62,000 in pledges. Had a wonderful keynote speaker from Brooklyn. And I just want to share with you, and I really do hope you read the article, because I can't go into the whole thing, but this Reverend David K. Brawley of East Brooklyn Congregations, a sister organization of Working Together Jackson, you know, they built these homes. They decided to make a change. He talked about making change is all about power. And he talked about changing one block can make a difference, but one organization makes all the difference in the world. And so he talked about this organization and building these homes for about $40,000 that are now worth $500,000 in East New York and in Brownsville. And he said this, and I just gotta tell you this. You know, one institution saved an entire community, and if we could do it 40 years ago, you can do it today. And that was just so powerful to hear. He talked about they now have, affordable housing, people moving from public housing to home ownership, better supermarkets, schools, public safety, better community. Once the murder capital of New York State, now referred to as a beloved community. And Reverend Brawley says this: 40 years ago, East New York was Jackson, Mississippi today. So I hope you get a hold of that article and learn more, and maybe find a way to support through your church. It's very possible your church could be a member organization. But take a look at that and see what you can learn about that. I think you'd be very interested. The next story, too, is on the last Friday, our illustrious governor signed the takeover bills. Nobody's shocked about that. HB 1020 and SB 2343 are now law in Mississippi, and they're scheduled to go into effect July 1st. As the phrase goes, before the ink was dry, on the same day, the NAACP filed lawsuit based upon discrimination and constitutionality issues. And then on Monday, 3 days later, the MacArthur Foundation, the Mississippi Center for Justice, the ACLU, and one other organization that escapes me right now, filed suit on behalf of 3 Jackson citizens. And they were reported in WJTV as Ann Sanders, Sabrine Sharif, and Dorothy Triplett. I know Dorothy Triplett. And so these are citizens, and apparently, in addition to the broad-based NAACP lawsuit, they found it important to go ahead and file directly on behalf of specific citizens who obviously have rights by their citizenship here in Jackson. So we're going to see what happens. Just a quick little recap on that. Just a minute or two. Remember, these bills were fed to the governor by the Republican majority, both in the Senate and the House. In the Senate, they approved, it was 31-15, and then flipping the bills to the other chamber, majority 73-41. There were a number of different abstentions. People will do that to give cover to themselves when they know that the vote it's going to pass anyway, so they don't need to attach their name to it. So they attach their name as an abstention and hope that people forget. I don't think that's what the taxpayers are paying legislators to do, but this is what they do. And unless they're held accountable, of course, they'll keep doing it. And back onto the 1020, just a reminder, 4 judges appointed by creating a separate and distinct judicial district inside the Capitol Complex Improvement District, inside the city of Jackson, inside Hinds County. 4 judges will be appointed by the Chief Justice of the Mississippi Supreme Court. That happens nowhere else in the state of Mississippi. So that indeed sets a precedent. It doubles the size of the CCID from 8.7 square miles to 17.5 square miles. It codifies the entire CCID primary jurisdiction of state law enforcement. So now you're talking Department of Public Safety and then, of course, Capitol Police. On one of the bill, I think it was on the 1020 bill, they said concurrent jurisdiction with Jackson Police, but on the other one it didn't. So we'll see. Figure the odds how that's gonna work out. And then on SB 2343, that takeover bill gives DPS, Department of Public Safety, and CCID the authority to enforce all state laws in any areas where properties are connected to the state doing business. So even if it's outside the CCID, if it's a location where the state is doing business, a state building, then they have precedence to enforce those laws. So you see, they've sucked away jurisdiction from Jackson Police. They've assumed jurisdiction. They lock it down hard, and then they start throwing out extra darts to separate areas that are outside that where they'll also have control. It allows for contracting for security personnel for big state agencies. It's like the farmers market, Department of Agriculture, the fairgrounds, ABC building. So those guys can contract with Department of Public Safety for security, and it requires written permission of the Capitol Police Chief or the DPS Commissioner in order to have an event that takes place on any sidewalk or street immediately adjacent to state property. You don't need a permit to protest or demonstrate or gather outside the White House. But these people have required now that written permission takes place. So there's other stuff that's that's included in there, but those are the core issues, and so just wanted to share that with you. And some of that reporting also comes from Mississippi Today. got something sad to share about Tougaloo College. You know, Tougaloo goes back to 1869. You know, it's a little bit unclear when you try to access the the list of the oldest HBCU. Of course, they weren't even called HBCUs until I think the 1950s or something like that. What became, Shaw, Lincoln, Chesley. Tougaloo's got to be like 4th, 5th, 6th on the list, having been founded in 1869. But there's an issue going on right now because there's so much of an uptick in funding and energy for HBCUs around the country, but Tougaloo's enrollment is declining. Now, I did read yesterday they got a huge partnership with Howard University, multi-million-dollar partnership with Howard University and the U.S. Air Force. But a petition has been started called Help Us Save Tougaloo, and it's an effort to remove the current president, Dr. Carmen Waters, who's been there since 2019. Never met her. I'd like to. But the folks point to declining enrollment, lack of transparency, an inability to recruit, hire, and retain qualified personnel. And the petition has now got well over 1,400 signatures and expresses the concern of both alumni and students. So sad to have to share that with you, but I mean, we'll see how that transpires. I mean, there's a strong alumni presence with Tougaloo, as with most, HBCUs, and they're really trying to steer the ship, and so that when they see the ship is perhaps gotten off course a bit, they want to try and bring it back in. And when they make legitimate face-to-face efforts to do that and it doesn't work, then that's when you come to doing stuff like trying to remove the president. So we'll see what happens. We got 1 minute left. The time is clicking, and we got one last little mention here for you. Jackson Water, and this really came out a couple days ago. Jackson Water has moved its call center operations to Pearl. The company's called Protel Incorporated, so eventually the Water and Business Administration is going to be over there as well, and no longer going to be at the Metro Center Mall. So if you're one of those folks that jump in the car and drive over there to pay the water bill, you better call first and see exactly where that is going to be. Looks like it's going to be in Pearl for the time being. And a lot of people, of course, not happy about that, because why can't it be somewhere else in Jackson if it can't be at Metro Center? So we'll have more to follow on that. So thanks so much for your time and joining us today, and look forward to seeing you Friday at noontime. Take good care of yourselves and stay safe out there.